And we literally went to our good friend who was running SVB in Seattle at the time, who we knew through Madrona. And we said, can you please sponsor the podcast? You pick a number, whatever it is. It's not about the money. We don't care if it's $1. Yeah. We think having Silicon Valley Bank as our sponsor will add to the brand of the show and make this, like, it will make it more, perhaps make the content a little better, but it was just like establish this thing more as like a, hey, this is for real in the tech ecosystem, to our sort of points number 2 and 3 of increase our network and influence. Yeah. It was through the lens of that we decided to approach SVB of like, because back then SVB, they were Silicon Valley Bank. They were the bank of startups of the technology ecosystem. I'm like, this will really be a great brand halo for us.
Yeah, add some social proof, add some legitimacy.
So we did a lot of things for that sponsorship that ended up becoming hallmarks of the show and how we work with sponsors and partners now. We did things like we put the SVB logo on our album art. We put it on our website. The sponsor slots that we did with them weren't reads. We had folks from the bank on at the top of the episodes to give perspectives and the reason we did all these things was we were borrowing their brand.
That's so fascinating because it's a great attribute of the show right now is that like when you do an ad, you often talk to the advertiser and it becomes an interesting part of the show. Feels organic, feels like it fits.
We do it in lots of different ways now, but that spirit we've had all the way through, and I think is one of the things that hopefully makes us a great partner to our sponsors, and I think makes us different from almost really any other podcast out there. We approach the sponsored content with the lens of like, how do we use this as an opportunity rather than a tax on the show?
Yeah.
How do we make it interesting content? How do we make this like, Ben and I talk about it now, like an 11-star experience for our sponsors and our listeners, which is an Airbnb term. Brian Chesky talks about how they do or used to do a thought exercise of what does an 11-star Airbnb stay look like? It's like, the host picks you up at the airport in a, limo and cooks you dinner and all. And sort of just like, okay, what is an 11-star podcast ad? And it looks as little like a traditional podcast ad as possible.
That's such an interesting parallel is that in Airbnb, you have this idea of the host, but in podcasting, we also have this idea of the host and paralleling those two is like, the host says, hey, come on in. I'm going to give you a great experience during this show. You can trust me. This is going to be a really wonderful use of your time. I really like that. There's something about making it, comparing it to the hospitality industry. That's so great.
That's exactly how we think about it. So fast forward to today, it was changing now. For the first time next season, we're going to have Fortune 500s as our sponsors, which is a whole nother ballgame. But even, before that, like for the last couple of years, a typical sponsorship for us is a growth stage, market-leading private B2B technology company. Vanta, Vouch, Modern Treasury, StatSig, Crusoe, always selling to other enterprises as a venture-backed startup itself, typically having raised, call it $100 million or more. And so we go to these companies and we say, okay, you're not buying a podcast ad from us. Like, you're going to get a podcast ad. Like, sure. But like, we're going to become partners to your company. What does that mean? When you do your annual customer or partner conference, which oftentimes these companies are getting to the stage where they're doing this for the first time, we're going to be there with you. We'll MC the conference. We'll help drive traffic to the conference. We will do dinners with your top sales prospects the night before, the night of. We will do an ACQ2 episode with you, the CEO of the company. Because you're a market leading, interesting company of itself, so that's great. But also now here's this 90-minute, 2-hour, exploration and discussion of what the company is that we can now mention, link to in the core sponsorship on the main show, so it drives people down the funnel. Because these are all, all of our sponsors, their products are multi-tens of thousands, if not multi-hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
dollar ACV products. Then we've taken it even a step further over the past couple of years. We'll invest in your company. Vanta, we've invested almost $10 million in
Wow.
Vanta. So it's like, it's all in this 11-star experience mindset. It's like, okay, you could pay money for a podcast ad, or it could look like this. Like,
that I love that picture that you're painting. The experience of that is, I think a lot of folks want advertisers, but they don't really think about what the advertiser is getting in return. And that list you just gave us is such a good example of, there's a lot of value there. There's like, they get this content asset, like, hey, let me serve you by having you on the podcast. I'm going to produce a piece of media that you can now use with here, here, and here. You can have your own content team take off with it. You can like
post it on your own website, do all sorts of stuff.
It's just, that's such a gift. And I think your approach to this is something that more podcasters should emulate, which is, it's everyone wants to just be, well, they think they want to be the podcast that just does HelloFresh ads. And first of all, I don't think they realize
there's nothing wrong with
there's
that.
nothing wrong with that, but I don't think they realize how, if you wanted to stand out, there's millions of podcasts that want to do HelloFresh ads. But if you want to stand out, you can carve out your own world where you say, we're not in that category. What we're doing is we're giving people an 11-star experience, and this is how we do it. And it ends up being a huge gift to them. They're giving us money, but we are giving them this big gifts in return that they can, leverage. It's fascinating.
It's gifts, but it's also like, it really is a partnership when we think about it. Like, we get things out of this too. When we go MC, Modern Treasury's customer conference or whatever, their partners that are there are the largest banks in the world. So now we're on stage emceeing, hosting this conference, and then doing a fireside chat. We did a fireside chat at the end of the day with Brad Kirster from Altimeter. We are being held up on stage as like, on a pedestal to the 30 largest banks in the world. And like, and JP Morgan is our presenting sponsor next season.
Wow.
Now, we didn't meet them at the Modern Treasury conference. We knew them before, but like, all of this helps, like, it's a true partnership,
It's the same way that you think about producing compelling content for the audience. It's like, what would be a compelling offer for a sponsor? That is just, it's just right there. Like, this is compelling.
Yeah.
We're not like pushing something on somebody. They're being drawn to us because this offer has just a lot of value in it. They can see it.
Yeah.
We don't even have to tell them. They can see it, the evidence of it right there.
Two other things I would say. One, this approach works so well for us because it's what our audience is. Like, I think, we're talking about the HelloFresh ads, like, or any kind of, programmatic stuff. And programmatic stuff is great. Like, and like, there's a world for all that. That is mostly a world in mass market consumer podcasts. We are not a mass market consumer podcast. Our biggest audience segment is founders of companies. So like, understanding our audience and then what the right, segment of sponsors and partners and advertisers is for that is great. We happen to be an extremely high value, high LTV segment, which is awesome. But I think the lesson applies, whatever it is that you're doing, like, you can be very thoughtful about who the natural, and for us, this was just like, back to the SVB conversation of that as our first sponsor. We're like, great. That is like, that brand helps us with the brand that we want to create of Acquired for the audience that we want to reach.